consequence of this? Lloyd Blankfein met with the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, but there's something that's not quite right about this meeting.
Well, on the face of it, it's embarrassing. There's no legal exposure to be drawn from this. This is at the beginning. This meeting took place in November of 2009, before Goldman launched on this very lucrative relationship funding 1MDB, a relationship that eventually turned into a huge scandal. This is at the beginning of it, before there was any evidence. So this looks bad in the rearview mirror, but at the time there would have been no reason for Lloyd Blankfein as CEO to know that. And Lloyd Blankfein as CEO, his job is to meet prime ministers when he has the opportunity.
Exactly.
So the presence of Jolo, who's at the center of this scandal, now looks much worse than it did at the time when he was just a party-hardy playboy in New York.
Yes.
Greg, how much could this end up costing Goldman Sachs? Just walk us through what the provisioning around this could ultimately end up looking like. Does the latest revelation increase that number, do you suspect, from a regulatory point of view? What does this actually mean to the bottom line?
No, this particular incident will not affect Goldman's punishment, wherever that may be. It will be very expensive for Goldman Sachs. It's clear that they were caught slightly unawares by the level of detail in the court filings from last week. So, it will be very expensive. They're already being pressured to pay back to Malaysia a lot of the profits that they got out of selling the bonds for 1MDB. And we haven't even heard from the U.S. Justice Department and what they're planning to do to Goldman here in the U.S.
OK, so let's just recap. According to people with knowledge of the matter, years before Goldman Sachs arranged some bond deals, which are now at the heart of corruption probes that span the globe, basically, Lloyd Blankfein, who was then the CEO, is now chairman, but has stepped down as CEO, personally was helped to forge ties with the Malaysian Prime Minister by another Goldman Sachs partner who is really at the heart of this corruption scandal,
yes,
and has pleaded guilty, and a Malaysian businessman who is, as you say, a little
Jolo.
Jolo.
And one more detail that's in the story is that there was a second meeting in 2013 with the Prime Minister and Jolo and Tim Leissner. This is after compliance people at Goldman should have known about this. We don't know the identity of that senior Goldman official yet.
Goldman hasn't commented, it's declined to comment on this particular story, but it has said in the past that Leissner, this Goldman Sachs partner, withheld information from the firm. And in fact, Blankfein has said that too.
Yes, and the court documents released last week showed that Leissner lied repeatedly to his overseers and to the compliance department. The question, what the prosecutors, the federal prosecutors will have to determine is, should Goldman's compliance system have been more robust instead of just accepting the word of a banker, which is essentially what they did.
What does this mean for Lloyd Blankfein, do you think?
Not much. As I say, this is at the beginning. This is his job in 2009 to cultivate relationships with the heads of governments in developing nations. There was a big push in Asia, not just China with Hank Paulson before him, but throughout Asia. And I think he was doing his job. So, as I say, it looks bad in the rearview mirror, but at the time there would have been no reason for Lloyd Blankfein or the executive committee at Goldman Sachs to be concerned about the new Prime Minister of Malaysia.